So life is a series of problems, but we already knew that. But the goal of life isn't to eliminate our problems. It's actually to get better ones. Allow me to explain. So let's talk about a video that I made a while back called Life Does Not Get Easier. I already kind of talked about this in that video, but the core message is as we get older, we always face new problems, and basically problems never go away, even if you take steps every day to make your problems better. And basically by confronting our problems head on, we just get better problems. And the opposite is also sadly true. If you avoid your problems, well, they're just gonna pile up and get worse, and you know what happens if you avoid problems. You're probably doing it right now. So you can think of this unfiltered, less scripted video as part 2 to that video, because I really want to expand on that idea of trading problems for better ones, because it's an interesting idea. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, actually. So to start off, let's just talk about the idea of how problems are a constant. There really is no end to them. No one's exempt. Even rich people, celebrities, billionaires, bro, they're all facing problems. They're just facing better problems than us, most likely. You see, us common folk, we're not really privileged enough to have the same problems as these billionaires. Even perfect vacation scenarios have their problems. Let's talk about having a beach vacation, right? Like everybody loves those because you can just get away from your problems and just really enjoy it. But even then, you're still gonna run into problems eventually. Whether that be you start getting homesick and you wanna go home, or you actually start getting antsy because you're just not doing anything. Or maybe you just get sunburned because you forgot to put on sunscreen and now you got to deal with that problem. You see what I mean? There's just always problems, always going to be problems. And then of course, once you eventually go home, because one, you don't have infinite money, which is a problem, so you have to go back home and start working again, then you're back to your problems. And while yeah, having unlimited money, you can just kind of pay your way through these problems, but eventually you're going to hit a wall where even money can't fix that. Think of the lonely millionaire, you know, the one who's got so much money, he's all of his like material problems are all dealt with, you know, like he can just buy whatever he needs and he's good. What about love? What about the fact that this guy goes home at the end of the day after working and realizes, wow, I have nobody in my life because I pushed them all away to work hard? That's a problem, a pretty big one actually. So yeah, that kind of rules out the idea that money can just, you know, buy your problems away. Yes, to an extent. A problem-free life can never really truly exist, and you're never gonna run out of problems. There's no shortage of problems, trust me. You're gonna run into some shit that's gonna bother you eventually. The only real time that you can actually escape your problems is, well, when you die. But even then, you could argue that being dead is a problem. I mean, dying is kind of an issue because you're not alive anymore, and even that's up for debate. Dying in itself is kind of a problem. But you know what? Let's not really get into that argument because this is just gonna go on forever, and like I don't want this to be like a super philosophical thing. I'm just trying to talk about problems here, so let's just get to the next part, which is trading problems for better problems. So we already talked about how you can kind of buy your way into better problems, or maybe you can just like, you know, trade them up, you know, do something to get rid of this current problem, and then you're eventually going to face another problem. So again, I already kind of talked about this in the other video, or in just other videos in general, where I talk about trading problems up. But basically, we all got problems that we eventually want to trade for a better one. And we do this all the time, you know, we're always trading problems. But the goal of life, ideally, is to trade your current worst problems for better problems, which is literally what I've been saying this whole time so far. So I think the best way to go into this is to use an example, because I love examples. So let's talk about the problem of struggling to pay your bills versus the struggling of trying to find time outside of your successful career to do hobbies. So basically, you know, your current problem is you don't have enough money to pay your bills. That sucks. But then you find a nice job that pays well. It's a great job. You know, you really like it. Pays your bills now. But now you don't have time because you're always busy. Two different problems, very realistic problems that people face a lot actually. But let's be honest, I think there is one problem over the other that you'd rather have out of that scenario I just gave you. And just on that topic of trading, you know, problems, especially in that scenario, trading problems typically also comes with increased growth or fulfillment in your life. I mean, trying to find a good job that you actually enjoy, that's tough, but once you trade that problem, that usually comes with a lot of fulfillment. Work really is like a third of your life. If you find a job that you really like, it can fulfill you and make you feel a lot better. And just quickly back on that example, if you traded the problem of, you know, struggling to pay your bills for the problem of having no free time and for your hobbies and all that, there's a good chance there was some growth from that trade because you now really like what you do in your job before you either didn't have one or your job sucked. And then ideally, as you're doing this trade over and over again, you know, you're constantly trading up. Well, ideally you want to be trading up. You're just trading for better problems. So let's just go back to that hobby issue again. No time for hobbies. Well, you could probably trade up that problem by building a strict routine so that you can, you know, time block it so you have time for this specific hobby. Maybe you want to play guitar for an hour a day, whatever, right? If you put it in your calendar, then you are kind of solving that problem, but now you have a new problem, which is having a strict, rigid schedule, which can be a problem depending on who you are. But of course, now you have time for your hobbies. I know this is not really the best example of trading problems, but I think you're getting the idea. You're learning, you're growing, and with each new trade usually comes more fulfillment and growth too. Improving your life by trading problems up, that usually comes with personal growth. You don't just get better and then that's it, your life's in the same spot. Like, you need to grow to get better, and you get better by growing. It's like a cyclical thing, you know? Okay, so we know that problems never go away and you're constantly trading up, but let's talk about something just a little bit deeper. As humans, we literally need conflict to survive. Challenges in life actually make you feel alive. So before I dive a little bit further into that, let's just get into an example, because examples are sick. Have you ever noticed that when you go on like a week-long vacation where you just don't have to do anything at all, you always feel like a little homesick or antsy, like you just really want to go back? And well, that's not like a you problem. That's like a really universal thing actually. And that's just because too much vacation or just time off leads to restlessness. You literally get antsy from this. And it's not just like a feeling, it's real. You see, without challenges, people often lose their sense of purpose in life. Conflict literally gives us life. And well, conflict is usually a problem, and that's a problem that needs to be worked on and then ideally traded up. And then you get the whole idea of how conflict is good. It's problems, you trade them up, you trade them for better problems, and then it's another conflict that makes you feel alive. And then you see, it's this cycle, and you're seeing all of this come together now. But in a nutshell, you need conflict if you want to feel like you're actually living. Avoiding your problems does nothing but hurt you in the long term. Don't run away from your problems. You should try and learn to face them head on. And that actually segues really nicely into the idea that you can never really truly retire and just do nothing and be peaceful. Problem-free life and retirement, I mean, it's kind of like a myth. Retirement's not really real. And the thing is, before I expand on retirement, well, what the hell is retirement? What does that even mean? Well, most people define it as not having to work because they have enough money to support themselves. And I think that's pretty good, right? You know, do whatever you want. You want to go golfing every day. You'd be like one of those typical old retired dudes who just golfs. Sure, right? But it's going to get boring pretty quick. And most people would define retirement something along those lines, but it's pretty similar. And you know, the definition of retirement's kind of been like shifting over time. So let's just go with that for now. So why can traditional retirement be a death sentence for a lot of people actually? Well, the lack of structure just leads to a slow decline. And especially when you're at that age of retirement, let's say you're like 60 or 70, you're already kind of like deteriorating, like physically. And once you throw away the mental part, well, then you die. Well, actually, you know what? Yeah, you die. Like, haven't you noticed those people who just like work real hard in their whole life, and then once they finally actually retire and that stress that they all had just gets lifted off their shoulders, they just die shortly after? It's quite sad actually, but that hard work was literally keeping them alive. It's funny because we always want a break and we always want to just stop working hard, you know, just take some time off and just do nothing. But once we finally get that break, I mean, the relief is so short-lived. It's like you crave to go back to work again. I don't know, at least that's how I feel. If I take too much time off, I need to do something. But basically what I want to try and emphasize here is that you always want to be seeking new challenges and things that actually are hard, especially in later stages of life when, you know, you've kind of lived a bit and you know what you want, but you kind of get comfortable because you're in this routine. And that's when you really got to break out and do something that is like, whoa, you know, like something that just like flips your routine upside down, something that's uncomfortable, something that challenges you. Because guess what? The day that you give up on working hard will also be the day that you stop living. Dang, that's deep, bro. Okay, damn, yeah, that's tough. You know, you kind of have to grind and work forever if you want to stay alive. And with that said, I'm not saying that you should just hustle and grind to the bone 24/7 and, you know, like work yourself. Like, that's another problem. You can also overdo it. And you know what? It's a teeter-totter. It's a balance. You have to, you know, work hard, but not too hard. God, life is so hard, isn't it? Like, you need to make some time to restore yourself too. That's why vacations exist. You just can't always be vacationing though. And even little things like, hey, if you're tired after work and you need to take a nap so you can restore yourself, go take a nap. You need to recover so you can keep working hard. But you know what? Let's just reframe things a little bit. Let's just change it up a bit. Let's say problems. What if problems are actually just opportunities? Because they are. Problems force us to grow, innovate, adapt. No one ever got stronger or smarter without putting some work in. Think about the gym. You want to grow and get big muscles? Well, it's painful. You got to go in there and you got to push some iron around and you got to really work. But if you want to get big, like, Yeah, it's gonna hurt. But basically, without problems, we stagnate and we lose our spark. Problems are a good thing. As mentioned in pretty much this entire video now, problems really do give us a reason to live. As kind of crazy and deep as that sounds, it's true. A problem-free life is a meaningless life. But you know what? Life is also about progress. It's not about perfection either. In the end, the goal of life is not about a problem-free life, but more about filling it with meaningful problems that, well, actually challenge and inspire you to be better and feel alive. I don't want this to be a depressing one. I want it to be actually an inspiring one. And hopefully this has kind of inspired you. I know this video was kind of all over the place. That's what happens when you do like unfiltered, unscripted videos. You just kind of talk about whatever's on the top of your head right now. But you got to keep going. You got to keep moving forward and keep working hard at trading your problems for better problems because, well, in the end, that's kind of what life is about, huh? Constant problem trading. So before I end this video, I'm going to leave you with one question. What are the problems in your life that you are willing to trade for better ones? Oh yeah, also don't forget to drop a like and a sub.